Welcome to the first episode of It Gets Better, the podcast in which my friend peer pressures me into exploring some of the most normie movie franchises in recent history. I'm Brian Abrams.
And I'm Liz Charbonneau.
And this season we're taking a courageous dive into the fiery volcano of camp, better known as the Twilight film series. And as you might guess, Liz is the Twihard here.
I generally never shut up about Twilight. I think probably that on top of the amount of times I've logged it on Letterboxd finally pushed Brian over the edge to admit that he should watch it at some point. And I wanted to come on this journey with him while he explored it.
There was a Letterboxd entry in particular that grabbed my interest, in which she seemed to align the whole series with 9/11. And as you know, as everyone out there knows, I'm a huge 9/11 fan. But the other element is that there are a few Letterboxd crushes of mine who have a sincere love for Twilight, at least the 2008 one. And
the first one.
And I have to take them at their word that there's something in it. There's something inside the essence of this movie that's beyond just nostalgic girl crush crap.
That's fair. I think that there is. I think especially this first movie stands out in what it did as both a phenomenon that we can look back on of like Twilight Mania and where we were in 2008. But also I think it stands as a really good, fun, campy movie that everybody can find something entertaining in, whether you read the books, whether you're into supernatural teen romance or not.
Well, I assumed inside the first 5-10 minutes of this movie, which I've seen twice, this 2008 one I've watched twice, just to get my bearings, because if I'm going to be perfectly honest, in my first viewing, I checked out quite a bit, which then allowed me to check out a little bit also in the second viewing. And between the two experiences, I think I have a pretty solid understanding of what I just watched. But you must like it because it's like a divorced dad movie.
I don't think that that's why I like it. I do think it stands out slightly in that the story involves the child living with a divorced dad as opposed to living with her mom. We see in the very first scene, Bella is leaving her mom to live with her dad. But I liked it because it was mindless and fun. When I read the books as the first movie was coming out. It was something that I had ignored up till then. But I was in college. I needed something to kind of take my mind off of everything I was reading for school. So it needed to be easy. And I was going to see the movies. There was a lot of hype about it. So I might as well just read the book in my mind. And I sped through them. They're not hard books to get through. I was 18, so I was kind of slightly older than the target audience, and they were fun. And then I watched the movie, and I think the first movie by far is much better than any of the books. I think it is fun and funny in a way that the books have not been able to achieve. And
just to compare my other Letterboxd crushes with your opinion. So Elise, friend of mine, is my age, and I'm 87. And, you know, like we are, I mean, effectively, we're a generation above you, right? Like if we're like baby Gen Xers or elder millennials, you are kind of a millennial proper, right?
Yeah, I'm like very squarely a millennial.
And the other one on Letterboxd whose opinions I like, she is now, I'm going to guess she's in her late 20s, which meant that she probably saw the Twilight movies when she was like 4.
Sure. I mean, I think she was probably like 13, but effectively that's 4 years old, yes.
But when you were 18 and you're watching these movies, you are like the mature, sophisticated young woman in the audience next to all these other girls who are just like, maybe they can get their ears pierced next summer.
You would think that, but when these movies were coming out, there was also a phenomenon of twi-moms. So it was the mothers of the girls who were reading these books and seeing these movies who also read them and got really, really into them. I mean, they're the people who are spending money on this because 14-year-old girls don't have their own money. And it was their mothers that were driving a lot of this fan base. And we see that later in E.L. James, who wrote the 50 Shades of Grey series. She was a Twilight fan. She was an adult woman who was a Twilight fan who wrote 50 Shades originally as a fanfic about the Twilight characters and then spun that off into a book deal where she kind of just wrote out their names and identifying features.
So a suppressed horniness finds its expression through this genre that we're talking about today. And then, as you say, it expands to 50 Shades and other like-minded type works.
Yes. I think like the Twilight fandom was just extremely horny all the time. And that was what was driving it.
Well, this is before, this is 2008. So, porn wasn't invented yet.
Right. Yeah. Famously, that was invented in 2010.
So the term wine mom, which I consider like derogatory, right? I mean, I think I don't, not necessarily. Some people can call themselves a wine mom and it's fine, but you hear it derogatory a lot. But I feel like that term wasn't necessarily invented when the Twi mom was happening. But I have to assume that a wine mom can be a Twi mom, but a Twi mom isn't necessarily a wine mom.
Yeah, I think you can be both, but you're not always both, for sure.
Like a wine mom is obviously someone who is content with suburban living, or perhaps not, or perhaps discontent with suburban living, but alcohol is involved. And a Twi mom, I'm guessing, has a Christian bent to it to some degree, or maybe not.
Maybe. I think so. Twilight is written by Stephanie Meyer, and she is Mormon. And as you go through these books, and to some extent the movies cut out some of this, but you can really see that she is using them to push Mormon or just broadly Christian values as part of the story. So I do think that probably appealed to some moms, especially if they're moms who are reading it to make sure it's okay for their daughters to read it. Like, there's nothing inappropriate in these, because maybe you have a daughter on the younger age. And so that probably did appeal to them. But I think it flies under the radar somewhat enough that you're not necessarily Christian if you like these books.
Well, anyway, I suppose we should circle back. Well, I do want to.
Now we're in a work meeting.
I'm on a fucking Zoom call. The divorced dad element to it. I mean, I wasn't really joking when I thought like, oh, young Liz is watching this, and that's just an added layer for which she can identify because Bella, who's played by Kristen Stewart, she's a kid from a broken family.
I think I was too old to really identify with Bella. I think like that is for younger readers who want to put themselves in her place. Quite honestly, especially reading, I think Bella's a fucking loser. So I don't want to be Bella. Like, she has no interests of her own. She just kind of floats through life. And then she becomes obsessed with her vampire boyfriend, who I find creepy and controlling. So I'm not ever putting myself into Bella's shoes, except to be like, I wouldn't do this.
But what about her, like, pseudo emo hybrid goth like aesthetic? Was that not cool for you to connect with?
I mean, in the books, she doesn't have that. It's a defining feature that Bella is barely anything. So that you can project yourself onto her. The movie and the people who made it, the costuming, made a choice to dress Kristen Stewart in the way that they did. That you probably don't see this, but it had like a resurgence maybe about a year ago. People on TikTok, like teenagers, were dressing like Bella from Twilight Core and trying to like bring back that mid 2000s fashion that we see her in. But I was 18. I was in college. I was living in Scotland. People didn't dress like that generally, so I wasn't into it.
For the record, for anyone listening, no, I'm very much am on TikTok, but I'm not following teenage girls around on TikTok. Let's just get that on the record today.
Which is why I assumed that you didn't see that, because I don't think that even your For You page would bring that up the way that you have curated your algorithm, and that the Chinese government has curated it for you.
Shout out to the Chinese government. I mean, since we're on the subject of politics, and I made a sort of fickle remark earlier about the attacks on September 11, we probably should jump into that for just a moment. And the reason is, I can pull up your review, but a little house cleaning probably. I've been reading Richard Beck's Homeland, which is this nonfiction work about like the American psyche and how it's been altered since 9/11, and the author kind of just, he draws a line between then and now as to why things are the way they are. He doesn't give just one reason, but probably reading that while seeing you post about how 9/11-y Twilight was, that probably sparked something in me and got me interested. And then it turns out it's just about a very twinky looking tall young man with diamonds for a body. But we can get into that one later. But
yeah, it's interesting that even just from that, you're not thinking 9/11 though.
Because of the shattered glass?
Maybe. I don't like. I think just Twilight on its own, without any explanation, I think you should get 9/11.
I mean, I don't know how much Dick Cheney caught up with it.
I'd like to think he watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bush Girls. Jenna,
the Bush Girls had to, they have to have watched it at some point, for sure. And they can be like, well, you're welcome, world. Now you have Twilight.
I am going to press you for an answer on your 9/11 hot take, because watching 2008 Twilight, eventually I'll stop referring it to that, but I'm still learning the names of all the movies. But it's such a departure from like vampire movies that I'm used to in terms of not just the aesthetic, but just the way that vampire movies so deliciously lean into godless nature. So deliciously lean into godless nature of anything, whether it's sex or drugs or some mythical erotic castle in some 70s Eurotrash movie. And this is not that at all. This is wholesome. Which again explains why you love it so much.
Right. Yeah. I notably love anything wholesome. I think you're right. Like, Twilight is literally the opposite of basically the rest of vampire canon, in that the vampires are not representative of sex or drugs or illness or anything like that. They are, in Stephenie Meyer's Twilight, they are Mormon. We've never seen that before. To answer your question about 9/11, there are two separate things in there. One, Twilight is a direct result of the attacks on September 11th. Are you familiar with the band My Chemical Romance?
I've seen the name.
So the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way, was working in New York City on 9/11. He saw the towers get hit and come down. It made him reevaluate his whole life. And he said, you know what I've always wanted to do? I wanted to start a band with my brother and our friends. And he went home to New Jersey and they started My Chemical Romance. On their first EP, there is a song about vampires. And honestly, I'm kind of impressed that Stephenie Meyer knew about them that early on. This was before they're getting play on MTV or anything. I don't know where she found them. But she became a fan of them and a fan of that first album or that first EP, and was inspired by it, plus a dream that she had about a vampire, to write Twilight.
But My Chemical Romance wasn't like an underground, subversive band, right? They were designed to be like a pretty pop mainstream. She probably heard it on the radio or something, right?
No, but I'm saying she heard them before they were that, though. When they were getting started, everybody heard them starting around 2004. I think it's 2004. Their first studio album, full studio album, comes out then. Stephenie Meyer is already writing Twilight by then, so she's heard of them before that album that's actually getting played on the radio, and the videos are on MTV. Which I don't know how she heard about them as like a Mormon housewife in Utah. I guess like she might have stumbled upon a torrent of their music or something. So 9/11 is directly responsible for Twilight existing. I also want to note that My Chemical Romance hates this association with Twilight. They were asked to write a song for one of the movies. They did something that, and I love them, but I think it's like a real bitch move. They wrote a song about not writing a song for the movies. You're still writing a song about Twilight then, guys. Get the money. It's not cool or punk to like walk away from that but still write a song about Twilight.
So are they like Francis and the Lights? Are they kind of that vibe, just a poppy kind of college band thing, or is it even more normie than that?
No, they're emo. And they came up at the exact right time for like mainstream emo. Like, this was not like American football Midwest emo then. It was like their videos were being played on TRL constantly, but they were an emo band. Brian just sighed, so I don't know what he's thinking about that, but I can also go into where I see the 9/11 influence on Twilight, which is separate from the fact that
it was an inside job.
Yeah. George Bush made this happen because he wanted Twilight to be written, obviously. And also because he knew eventually we would get Welcome to the Black Parade, which is, I guess, his favorite album. I don't know.
Just imagine if he took over programming for the Kennedy Center. We would have had a whole Twilight.
The Kennedy Center honors Stephenie Meyer and My Chemical Romance and E.L. James. And Dakota Johnson. I honestly like people who deserve it. So let's have that happen. I also see like the effects of 9/11 on the storyline. I think an obsession and an embrace of death as like part of your life and something you want to be part of your life, which is what vampires are, their death, is a direct reflection of people who were living in post 9/11 America. You had to confront this idea that you could die at any time, and the government is telling you with their like color coded warning system every day, like it's like in the corner of CNN constantly that it's orange. I've never seen it be below yellow the whole time. I don't think it ever has been. I don't know why they even had, was it blue and purple or something, or green, that like everything's fine. Nothing's ever been fine. And then later on, like George Bush is going to send you or your friends to die in Afghanistan or then Iraq. If the terrorists don't get you here in America or anywhere else you go. And so, like, death becomes something that you think about a lot, and I think that you see in Twilight an almost, like, embrace of it in a wholesome way, too, because it's not a scary thing now, because the vampires are nice, and they're not threatening, they're Mormons, and so we should just embrace death as part of life or something that we want. And so I think, like, that is a reflection of post 9/11 America, probably especially for teenagers who saw it happen as kids and are growing up in it, not necessarily the adults who lived up through their adult lives already in a more normal world.
You bring up something about the comfort and coziness of a vampire movie, and obviously within that, you know, she is suffused like family values in all of these narratives, I'm assuming, right? There's something else happening. Like where does Bella...
Yes. Oh my God, you finally got it.
So where does Bella like land on, if there is like a sort of a feminist spectrum that we place her? Because this is obviously years before even like the girl boss trope is introduced into the mainstream. And I don't think she is a girl boss or anything like that in this movie. I think she definitely has her streaks of independence, and she definitely has her desires for sex, but I think but it's also it seems to be inside of like within the scope of like what's accepted in a conservative world is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think that she still exists in this Christian conservative world that Stephenie Meyer is writing and that she wants us to see. And I think it's almost accidental when we do see some kind of feminism from Bella. And I think the biggest one is that Bella is horny. Bella is the one who wants to have sex. Edward doesn't. And I think it's a departure from what you see in a lot of things that are geared towards teenage girls. And it's an acknowledgement that, like, you guys are horny too. I know that. And I think that that's an exciting addition, but I don't think that Stephenie Meyer wanted to give us that. I think it just had to happen for the story, which is that Edward is a good Mormon boy who is not going to steal Bella's virtue. So somebody had to be horny in that, and it just ended up being Bella.
Is Edward Edward Cullen?
Yes.
Is he not horny at all? Because there's a scene. I'm going to jump ahead. The scene where like he jumps into her bedroom and he apparently has done it like multiple times because he likes to watch her sleep, which is like total kind of frat rapist behavior.
Extremely creepy.
It's not great. It's not what you want. So and then they make out, and then he pushes himself away against the wall. Like he is horny, right?
I don't think he is. I think even then, like, he wants to kiss her, which is a good chaste thing to do. But when he pushes himself away, it's not stopping himself from going further. It's not like he's horny but knows he shouldn't. And they don't address this at all in the movies, and we'll see this through all of them, that there's a lot left out from the books. He's worried about hurting her because he's so much stronger and faster and could like nick her and get the venom in her and all of that. That's what he's worried about. He's not worried about going too far.
Well, a couple of things on that. So for starters, toward the end of the movie, she gets bit by these random vampires. And I apologize, we're jumping around, but I don't care. So she gets bit by one of these like, sort of rogue vampire people. And then he sucks the venom out of her wrist and she goes cross-eyed, which, obviously they're really into it, right? It's a great sucking. And Dr. Meinheimer, or whatever his name is, handsome doctor, is telling him, like, I forget the line, but he's just like, find the discipline, and like not sucking her too much. And I mean, that's like Christian thing of being like, resist the temptation, don't cross the line. But the other thing you're saying is like, there's not a scene that goes by in this movie where Robert Pattinson's character is like, he's always talking about like how much he wants to take good care of her and I'll do whatever it takes to make you safe. And, the dad is running around with fucking gallons of pepper spray and like she's not an invalid.
Right. Yeah. But they treat her like that. In the books, she's really, really clumsy, but it's just clumsiness. Like, she's not actually in danger in any of this. It's just like, oh, she fell down the stairs. Like, she slips on the ice. Like, that's a normal human thing. Obviously, like, vampires don't get hurt like that. So he's like worried because she's fragile and human and he's not. And it's actually going back to like, he's not horny, but he's doing these things that you could like see as being horny. He is sneaking into her room and watching her sleep because he wants to watch over and protect her in case something happened at night. And that's why he likes it. That it's not like, I'm so horny for you and I want to watch you. It is literally like, something could happen to you as you sleep, so I'm just going to be here in case something does.
Can you pinpoint exactly when he falls for her? Because it did take the second watch for me to notice that I guess they first meet in the cafeteria when she's hanging out.
They see each other.
You're right. Yeah. There's a little bit of a fuck me eyes thing happening at the cafeteria. And then in the classroom, in science class or whatever, they share a lab table. And she walks in and there's a fan behind her and he has to and he's like gagging. like as if she farted or as if she didn't, she thinks maybe she didn't bathe properly, which there's nothing worse, I imagine, than a boy thinking you're smelly. That like nothing can make you feel more freaked out. But it's because he loves this smell so much, right? Because because this happens later when she gets invited to their house for Italian dinner. I don't understand why they're cooking Italian. I don't get that.
It's because they literally, her name's Isabella, so they're like, she must be Italian.
So let's make Italian meal.
Food. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though we're not Italian, and it's probably just going to insult her. Even though she's not Italian anyway, she's just from. They
Florida. Never address it. That she might be Italian. I don't know.
She could be like a Welsh, or
yeah, probably.
Have we looked up Kristen Stewart's ethnic background?
I actually haven't. No.
I wonder if Joe Rogan has that. Let me check it out real quick.
I back in the day after she cheated on Robert Pattinson, Donald Trump hated her, so I assume like he would be like, yeah, she's a person of color somehow.
Is that true?
Yeah, he famously has a bunch of tweets about like how she cheated on Robert and he should leave her and she sucks. Back when he just loved tweeting about. Oh my gosh, yes.
Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson dated?
Yes, they meet on Twilight, and then by the second movie, they are dating. And they date all the way through the rest of that. They were like a long-term couple.
Oh.
This is before she came out, obviously.
Is she gay?
Yes.
When did she come out?
I mean, years ago at this point.
Before or after the Princess Di movie?
Way before.
Huh. Well, I'm not informed on the celebrity news front.
I'm shocked. Yeah. Very famously lesbian.
Well, she plays it well regardless. But so you're saying that Trump tweeted I mean, I feel like I'm pretty familiar with his tweets. These just blew past me. This is in the age of where he says Diet Coke, I'll still drink that garbage. This is back then, right? When Daily Show's making fun of him for being Fuck Yvonne Clownstick or whatever name that Jon Stewart gave him.
Yeah. Here's one. Robert Pattinson should not take back Kristen Stewart. She cheated on him like a dog and will do it again. Just watch. He can do much better. And that was from October 17th, 2012.
Did she cheat on him with Jacob?
That would have been great. That would have been really great marketing for this. But she cheated on him with the director of Snow White and the Huntsman, which she was in after the Twilight movies.
Okay, I don't know who directed that. David Cronenberg.
Sure, yeah. Definitely.
Yes.
So, and there were paparazzi photos of them hooking up, and that is how it all came out.
Scandalous.
Like a dog.
Back to the movie, Scandalous Issues, happened to notice that the school newspaper, I forget the girl, or she comes by the lunch table to take photos, they're rattling off issues to use in the newspaper. That's just an opportunity for Stephanie Meyer or Myers. How do you say it?
Meyer
to sort of do her soapbox. And they talk about teen drinking, eating disorders, and Speedo padding on the swim team.
Yes. All equally bad issues that teens are dealing with that, in Stephanie Meyer's opinion, we shouldn't be. They're all bad. Unfortunately, as in the conversation, it turns out there's a lot of padding of the Speedos on the swim team. I don't know how that works when you're swimming, but maybe that school needs to address it.
Do you mean in the Twilight series there's going to be a scene about the Speedo padding, or do you mean in life that happens?
It's never mentioned again, but in that conversation, everybody else is agreeing. They're like, oh yeah, definitely they're padding these Speedos, and maybe we should get a spin-off about that.
Just please hit our Gmail if anyone out there has Speedo padding stories from their high school days.
Yeah, please do. I never saw it on our swim and dive team. I was on the dive portion of that, and I never saw that. So
you were a diving person?
I did. I was a diver.
Good for you.
Thanks.
I didn't do anything.
No, I did a lot. So that was a winter sport. But we actually need to circle back because you didn't finish your question, and then I couldn't answer it about when I think Edward falls in love with Bella.
Yeah, because the smell is like a smell he's like, it makes him crazy, right? It's like good, fresh human meat or whatever.
It's the best blood he's ever smelled in his life or afterlife.
So he's 17 forever. But how does that work? Because if you're 17 forever, he still exists. His brain still works.
Yeah.
So he ages mentally. Like, how can you be 100 years old and still, he's like, oh, I've been waiting forever and ever for you, my 17-year-old girl. Like, he should go for someone that's a little older.
He should go for another vampire who is also over 100, but trapped in a body. Like, that's the normal thing. That's what you see later on, and they talk about with his siblings, all the rest of the vampire family. That's what they do. That's the normal thing to do. Right, and that's part of why I think Edward is creepy. He's not 17. His body is 17, but he is 109. And why does he want to date a high schooler?
He would be bored inside of 5 minutes. But like you say, he's probably emotionally stunted. And maybe I find out in later Twilight installments that something happened to him. I don't want to make light of that kind of thing, but something made him this way. It's a Mystic River type situation.
Yeah, definitely you could draw some parallels to Mystic River from here. So to answer your question, and partially to address that, is like why he's into Bella, who's a 17-year-old, that they only kind of brush on in the movie is when he sees her in the cafeteria, he realizes he can't read her mind. He can read everybody else's mind in the world, but he can't read hers, and that makes her intriguing in a way nobody else has ever been to him. And it also means, and we get this later beyond the Twilight series in Midnight Sun, which is the latest book that Stephanie Meyer has written, and it's from Edward's perspective. He doesn't like all of the other teenage girls because their thoughts are so vapid and so below him, because he's 109 and they're 17. And they have not lived the life that he has. So he thinks that he's so above them all. But he never has that with Bella because he can't hear her thoughts. So he kind of like projects onto her that maybe she's not like all of these other girls. When we know, because we're seeing in the books and somewhat in the movies through her perspective, she is just a teenage girl who wants to go out with this hot guy and she's horny.
Wait, do we find out why he can't hear her thoughts?
We address it later. I don't want to spoil for you. And so then in biology class, she walks in and he smells her. And it is the best smell he's ever smelled in his life. He wants to drink her blood. He's convulsing like that, we find out in Midnight Sun, because he's physically holding himself back from killing her in that moment and drinking all of her blood. Like, that is the instant thing he wants to do. And then he has some kind of like sick, like self-punishment situation later on where he's like, I'm gonna be around her even though I want to kill her and I can't. So I'm gonna torture myself smelling her. So I think he's in love with her as soon as he works through, like, she's really intriguing, I want to drink her blood, can I be around her and stop myself? And part of the fun, I think, is probably stopping himself.
It's always about the chase.
Yeah. So he's not horny in a traditional sense, but he is in kind of a vampire sense where he definitely wants to drink her blood really badly.
One more thing about why he sucks, and I do agree with you on that. I'm not getting good vibes, is when they're at the restaurant, it's a very well-lit restaurant, very nice ambiance. I mean, I'm sure the mushroom ravioli in Forks, Washington is just absolutely out of this world. He doesn't order anything, and I just feel like by now in his life, he should have a move when they're at a restaurant. There should be there's something he can order to make things not feel so stiff. We're supposed to have a good time together, but I guess he's not dating.
Right, but Edward has never been on a date before, so he has not had to sit through and think this. And he and his siblings are weird as shit in high school, and they sit in the cafeteria with no food. So that's what he's used to, because vampires in this universe cannot consume food in any way. It's explained in the book that like they could eat it and they swallow it and then it just like stays in their stomach unless they want to throw it up. so they don't digest in any way. So he could do that too, to look normal if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He doesn't think those things through, even though he's had 109 years to do it.
In fairness to Stephanie Meyer, you got me thinking about all the other vampire movies, and I'm not sure I see Dracula or, you know, whoever, Countess Bathory or any of these people. I'm not, or the whoever, the guy from the James Woods one from the 90s. I don't think I ever see them eating. So I feel like, yeah, vampires generally are on the anorexic tip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fair play to Stephanie Meyer. She explains it. She loved to come up with lore that really nobody asked for. Like, you've never seen a vampire eat. You've never thought like, oh, I wonder what happens if they did eat a food. But she thought about it and she wrote it down.
Like, it makes you wonder, like, does blood give some vampires gas?
That is actually a really good question. Unclear, like, if it's digested, then there should be a possibility of that.
And the non-vampire front, I would like to give a shout out to Anna Kendrick and her 2 cleavage references throughout this movie. That seems to be like that's like a low key character. I noticed when they're shopping for the fucking what is it, for prom dresses or something like that, right? And it's very not, and this goes back to what I was saying. It's a very kind of conservative, wholesome thing. It's not the montage from Clueless, and I don't even mean Beverly Hills. I just mean there's not this like sensational, ravenous feeling with like kids wanting to buy up dresses and buy clothes and buy outfits. It's not. It seems a very like modest shopping setting, and she does let squeak out that like, oh, these this dress makes my boobs look good or something, which is like a very normal thing to say. I don't know where I'm going with that, other than like it's probably, I mean, all of this is probably why the movie doesn't speak to me in any way, and it shouldn't. It would be weird for 29-year-old Brian, or however old it was when the shit came out, to like it, and it'd be weird now for 83-year-old Brian to enjoy it.
Sure, yeah, you're not the target audience in any way, and you never have been. It's not that you aged out of it. Like, she was just not targeting men at all. So even if you had been my age when they came out, it would have been weird for you to be in it. I do think, like, but you can appreciate it, though. Like, I think, and what we haven't talked about is Catherine Hardwicke as the director of this movie. I think that she is having so much more fun with the source than any other director will throughout the series. I think that a lot of what she adds in is very tongue-in-cheek. Like, she is going to give you this, but she's also making fun of it in a way that I enjoyed seeing it for the first time, because I knew it was bad. And I wanted somebody to acknowledge that and not give me kind of like a serious adaptation of it. I wanted her to have these people play it up and ham it up and add in some crazy lines and make everything a little bit campy, in a way that like she knew she was making it campy, not in a serious way.
I'm not sure I can appreciate it for within the terms of what you just described. I don't know. There's something very plain about it that it does feel like a series from the CW to me. There's just something very flat, and people enter a room, people exit a room. We go from the school cafeteria to Bella's bedroom. You know, I'm introduced to, I guess, the antagonists, like, toward the end. There's this group of, like, I don't know.
Traveling vampires. Yeah. Yeah, you get through a lot of the movie before that comes up. And until then, you're kind of like, what is the actual plot of this? Is there kind of a climax in this?
Yeah. Again, I am watching this knowing full well that there's like tons of movies and tons of books. And so there's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of characters being introduced. I really don't know like which character I'm supposed to pay more attention to than the next. But so I'm just assuming like you have to kind of know all of them. And then there was that moment early on where I guess it's these same rando vampires that like kill that guy in a boat.
Yeah.
And so by the time they show up after the baseball game, I'm like, oh, I forgot. I forgot about these people.
Yeah, and it's actually worse in the book because they don't kill Charlie's friend in the book. There's just like vague references to like people getting killed by an animal, and then all of a sudden they show up at the baseball game. And you're like, oh, okay. So I was supposed to know these people were coming, but not really. you know? So I think part of what you described of it being like a TV show, and there's something that you notice, there's not a lot of like establishing shots. You don't get, they're in the Pacific Northwest, you can get like sweeping beautiful vistas, and you get like a small amount of those at the very beginning, and then that's it. And that's because that's what the book is. You get no description for a lot of the stuff in the book. And so this adaptation is like really, really closely tied to that book in a way that I wish it wasn't. I wish, you know, you had more of these setting shots, but that's not what teenage girls are looking for in their movie. They want to see these two hot teenagers being in love. So why show them the forests of Washington?
Well, I don't need to see the Shire or Mordor or any of that shit either. I guess I'm not. I haven't fully articulated why it feels like so unbelievably average to me. Oh, I did note a plot hole, I think, but I'm not sure. Okay. They're cooking Italian. I'm assuming that means they have meat in the house.
They went and got it.
And they can eat.
They don't eat, that. So they just went and... No, they don't eat meat. They only drink blood.
Oh, right. So then if let's say they buy like some pork chops, like they could drink the blood that came with the...
But that's not blood. That's like fluids. But like, it's not real, like blood from your veins is not in meat.
Because he says like they drink animal blood, but it's like having tofu. It's like a weaker version.
Yeah, it's a weird nickname that they use. They call themselves vegetarians because they don't drink human blood. So they drink animal blood, but it just doesn't taste as good.
But at any rate, at the Italian kitchen scene or whatever, the psychic sister, whatever her name is, Alice goes up to her and is like, "Ooh, you do smell good." Mm-hmm. Confirming Robert Pattinson's fucking unbelievable craving for her. But Alice met Kristen Stewart before, like more than once. She walked by her like
she's like times. Literally been right next to her. That is a good point. I don't think I've ever heard anybody bring that up. But yeah, like they're at like the field trip. She's right there, and she wants her to be on the bus with her. So I don't know, maybe she just keeps her nose plugged or something.
Stephanie canceled, and I'm assuming Stephanie's also pro compost.
I think it's Catherine Hardwicke that's pro-compost because none of that is in the book. So Catherine is giving us her environmentalist agenda while we're here. I don't think Stephanie would be an environmentalist as a conservative in Bush's America.
So jumping ahead, as I feel like I'm looking at my notes here, and I know I've covered a lot that happened later already, and that's just tough shit. But something else that I think bothers me is that I don't accept how easily, or maybe I just don't understand how easily the Cullens accept Kristen into like their circle. Mm-hmm.
So this we don't see even in the books until we get Midnight Sun, but it was a huge argument that almost came to blows between them because it makes no sense. Like your 17-year-old 109-year-old vampire is suddenly like, I love this human girl who's a teenager. I want to tell her all of our secrets, which involves us being vampires. And she's going to hang out with us, even though like it's painful for all of us to be around humans because we want to kill them and are resisting that. And so some of his family members opposed that on those grounds. Like, that's dangerous. It's stupid. Just find somebody else. Or like some of them were like, we should just kill her. Just drink her blood. Just give in now. Drink the blood. You'll feel better. We'll move on. So we don't see any of that. And then basically like Edward just threatens to leave the family and because he's a stunted teenage boy, and then they give in.
The consensus is ultimately, okay, we just need to placate Pedward.
Yeah, they do that, and then Alice, the psychic one, tells them that she has a vision of Bella becoming a vampire. So they're kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's going to happen. So we feel better about that then.
Oh, and I love this whole bullshit line about, what is her name again? Alice?
Alice.
That she can see the future, but the future can always change. Well,
Yeah.
I can see the future, and the future always changes.
Right, yeah. Yeah. It's a weird way to describe it. Like, basically what she can see is she can see what other people want to do. It's not the future, it's just like whatever plan you have. But they like to describe it as the future, and they like make major decisions based on it. Alice became a vampire in like the 20s, maybe early 30s. She did nothing with that power in the world.
But that's a great time to become a vampire, just economically, I would think. Like
100%, yeah.
like for that matter, the 2020s look like a pretty good time to dip into the afterlife as well. I don't mean any harm. Don't harm yourself. I'm gonna have to cut that one out. The finale at prom. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead. I just noticed a little dollop of Christianity happening there as he leans into her and he tempts her about kissing her on the neck, and she's like flirting with him about turn me into a vampire, and he doesn't do it. And this is like the Baby Girl of 2008 for like children, I'm assuming. And like, have you seen Baby Girl yet?
No, but I'm familiar enough where...
Yeah, and I mean, you would love it. And so he goes on and gives this monologue about how like they should have like a long happy life instead, or something to that effect. And like it is, I mean, this isn't a bad message, but he's saying like we can find joy, but know that joy has its limitations, and we can't just be these indulgent people who turn into horny, decadent vampires until the end of time.
Extremely Christian.
Yeah, there you go. And that is the note that the film ends on.
Well, no.
Right?
I mean, like, kind of, but we get the, like, final shot is Victoria, one of the evil vampires.
Oh, right.
In, like, a really campy, like, mink stole with, like, a dramatic music, spying on them, and then turning around and descending a staircase. So you know there's a second movie, and she is going to play a part in this series.
And she has diamonds on her skin too, right?
Yes, every vampire in this world sparkles, but they use it sparingly. Like, a lot of them are in light a lot of the time, and you never see it.
When Kristen Stewart notices him in his sparkly body in the fucking... Does the sun hurt him or not?
No. The sun is fine, but to kind of keep with vampire lore where they can't go in the sun, it's because they sparkle conspicuously. But they actually like being in the sun because they're like cold-blooded animals, kind of. So the sun warms them and it feels good on them.
He should know that she's not wise beyond her years when she compliments him and tells him that the diamond skin is beautiful or whatever, because it looks like something you'd buy at like Claire's.
Right, yes. Yes, it's not anything even intriguing. It's literally like he got covered in glitter.
Well, I don't know what else to share with you, but I sort of look forward to part 2 because again, back to you and my peers on Letterboxd, I feel that the sense I get is that this is the movie with like the structure, and this is the movie. This movie has like the bulk, and so the sequels, I have to assume, are going to be weaker and wackier versions that are kind of hanging on to this original concept. So I look forward to the shittiness, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's a good expectation to have. I will say the second one universally acknowledged to have the best soundtrack. So you'll at least have that going for you, including things that I think you would like. And no My Chemical Romance, because they wouldn't do it.
Any one teaser you can give me?
No, I don't want to spoil it for you. I think you'll see things play out as they do, and there will be even more names to keep track of that you will not do.